This is Anthony.
Wait, before we start, I feel like I have to do this. I feel like it should be a tradition, right?
Yes.
You should have every guest do that. That should be the start.
Done.
Good. Good.
All right. This is Anthony with MakeWeirdMusic.com, and I have a very special guest with me. We are here in Germany, and I'm just really privileged to be with him. It's Hyung-ki Joo from Igudesman Joo. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So,
good hair, by the way.
Thank you very much. I just had it done.
Oh, right. Right.
So, tell us who you are and what you do.
Right. Well, my name is Hyung-ki Joo, as you said. I'm one of the rare Korean Jews in the world. And it's spelled Joo.
Uh-huh.
My parents are Korean, hence the look, the Asian look. And but I was born in England, and I guess I'm a musician, and I'm a pianist, I'm a composer, arranger, and one of the reasons why we're here is because you got to know me through my work with my duo, Igudesman and Joo. And we are a duo that violinist and pianist, and we're classically trained, but we make concerts / shows which combine humor and theatricality with music.
Awesome. So I found out about you years ago through a YouTube video.
Yes.
And you guys have found a lot of YouTube success. And for me, when I look at what you're doing, it's clear that you have a mission of turning classical music into something more accessible and entertaining. So can you talk a little about that mission, and how do you feel you've done, in executing that mission?
The mission is a byproduct. Mission always sounds very self-aggrandizing. I mean, yes, it would be a lie to say that it was a mission. It would also be a lie to say that the mission was not in the back of our heads.
Right.
What I mean by that is that our first goal was to be creative, as we were when we were teenagers. We wanted really to create a concert that we would want to go to ourselves. We couldn't understand why a classical concert, and let alone jazz or rock concerts. I mean, actually, if you think about it, the concert format, regardless of genre, is quite square.
Right.
Even rock music, I mean, there's so little humor and so little fun in a rock concert. I mean, the music is yeah, whatever, but they're actually quite serious.
Yeah.
And it's quite uptight in a weird sort of rock way. I mean, they're on drugs and whatever, but it's a certain type of rigidity. It's a certain type of format. And of course, not all the groups, but most. And same in the world of classical, same in the world of jazz. There seems to be certain formulas and rigidity, and somehow people become very comfortable with that and just accepting that as, oh, that's what it is. And we couldn't understand why. Who said that? Where's the rule book? Where's the book? Show us the book where the book of laws, the 10 Commandments, it has to be like this. Who said? So, and it wasn't that we wanted to be radical or rebels. We just felt that there could be more done. And because we were both people that were fascinated by comedy, theater, literature, other types of art forms, we couldn't understand why these things couldn't exist side by side next to each other. And so we already from an early age just experimented and put on concerts out in our own way.
Right.
And then about 14 years ago, we sat down and we said, okay, you know what, why don't we actually really do what we've always wanted to do and create this show / concert that because we didn't always live in the same city, and we spent a few years apart. I was studying in New York, he was studying in Vienna. So of course we'd see each other almost once every year, and most of the times we'd end up doing something together. But now that I had moved to Vienna and he was living in Vienna, we're both living in the same city. We said, "Oh, come on, let's do this," and so A Little Nightmare Music and Igudesman Joo was born.
Mm. For those who don't know what A Little Nightmare Music is, could you describe it briefly?
Well, that's the name of our first show as officially as Igudesman Joo, and it's crazy because I've been trying to describe the show for 14 years, and now, being put on the spot again, you would have thought that by now I should have some perfect press statement. It is and just have it rehearsed. It's actually, I think it's impossible to describe. Because in a way there's nothing like it. On the other hand, you could say that what we do is very retro. Because if you studied the documents, the historical documents, and you looked at how concerts happened in the times of Mozart, Beethoven, and Liszt, they were much more open.
Really?
Well, there are very famous documents and stories. For example, the world premiere of Beethoven's Violin Concerto. It's quite a well-known story in the classical world. The violinist who was performing, his name was Franz Clemens. In between movements, he was performing tricks with his bow, like playing the violin upside down and playing, undoing the hair and doing tricks with his bow. The kind of thing that would be just frowned upon today. It just would be scandalous. But this was authentic. This was, people talk about, authenticity and the authentic movement. Well, that was authentic.
Right.
Also, people stank. They didn't take showers. So that's authentic. There's this whole movement, at least in the classical world, about authentic, period instruments and playing.
Romanticizing everything.
Sure, fine. But then don't shave for a month and don't shower and then put on a concert, because that's authentic, So, and another document is Mozart, when one of his piano concertos was premiered. People started applauding after 16 measures. And he was so proud of it that he wrote a letter to his father. That's how we know this. He said, Papa, you won't believe it, but just now they clapped after 16 measures and we had to stop and we had to start again. What a success. So he was bathing in this glory that he had to stop, that people clap. If today that happened, it would be a scandal. People are like, shh, how dare you clap? The composer would be pissed off. If I was the composer of a work, especially one of these works like, and people were clapping after 16 measures, I'd be like, thank you, God. Wow, great, I made it. You should be fucking happy, Instead, be like, oh, how dare you interrupt my work with applause? This was Liszt, Franz Liszt, the inventor of the recital. He apparently would play a piece and then he would stop. He would go into the audience. Franz Liszt, the great, would go into the audience, have a chuckle with someone sitting there, have a swig of wine, and then go back and play something. This was the great Franz Liszt, the one who invented the recital. That's what they were doing. So this was the times. And it was just, there was less of this elitist, snobbish divide between the artist and the audience. There was a kind of more interactivity. And we lost that towards the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century. And then with the Second World War,
wow.
And things just got ultra serious, at least in the classical world. But as I said, even in jazz and rock, and it's, this music that's so groovy and so full of, makes you want to dance, the musicians are actually quite serious. How many rock groups do you know, because that's more your world, right? Do you know who actually would crack a joke on stage or write songs which are funny?
Right. Well, Frank Zappa has an album.
Of course.
Frank
Frank
Zappa
Zappa's
belong in music.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Frank Zappa is one of the rare exceptions, but
Absolutely.
he doesn't quite fit in
No.
the mold of anything,
No,
really.
You're right. It's usually, I can't hear you. Are you guys having a good time? Right? Try to get the audience into it.
Queen had humor.
Yes.
Freddie Mercury had humor, and and there's this kind of stagecraft, and even songs like One Vision, it has words like fried chicken, and
Right.
it,
Fat bottom girls.
right,
Yeah.
and there's a certain humor in the orchestration, in the sound of the song. Beatles had humor,
Yes.
yeah, in also the stagecraft, in the the whole introductions, especially Lennon. But also in the songs, you hear it. There's a sense of fun. I'm not saying that things have to be funny, just that there's a sense of fun. One of my favorite groups is 10cc. I don't know if you know 10cc.
I've heard of them.
Oh, they're fantastic. A lot of their songs have this humoristic element, fun element.
Yeah.
A lot of jazz musicians became ultra serious. Like if you look at jazz at the beginning, a lot of these guys, there's so much humor. Duke Ellington, Errol Garner, Ella Fitzgerald. There's when they're scatting, there's humor, different quotes, and there's a sense of fun. And then came this kind of very ultra serious movement in jazz. And so I saw this interesting video the other day. It was a lecture that John Cleese gave on creativity, and of course, John Cleese, the whole Monty Python gang,
Right.
is a huge influence on us, on Igudesman Joo, and as they are on comedy and many things. And John Cleese, one of the members of it, was giving this very serious talk about creativity. And one of the things he talks about is that he says there's a very big difference between serious and solemn. And he also says that in order to be creative, you need to open the portal of humor. And that but just because you're talking about something serious, it doesn't mean that if you make a joke or if you find humor in it, that what you're talking about is any less serious. It is entirely possible to have a conversation about a serious subject, but with humor. And he was even saying, that there's no room for solemnity. He was saying that he said that something like 2 of the funerals that he's been to in his life were just full of humor. And they were the most moving ceremonies and funerals that he'd ever been to.
Right.
So, in this world, somehow humor is laughed upon. Humor is, is not taken seriously. It's kind of put aside. But actually, it's key.
It's so human.
It's human. That when you ask, this is also so interesting. When you ask Holocaust survivors, what kept them going? Because they basically had death staring in their face all the time. So how did they, for 5-6 years keep on going? And most of them say music, humor. So we're very lucky that we do both. We do music and humor.
Right. So I love your shows.
Yeah.
Everyone I've brought to your shows loves them, whether they know anything about classical music or not. But there have to be musicians that do not love what you do, that don't appreciate you removing the solemnity, in classical music that seems to have taken hold since, as you said, World War II.
We've never come across these people, but
Really?
Doesn't mean these people don't exist. And I know that these people exist because sometimes I read the comments on our YouTube videos. And, we believe in free speech. So if you go to our video clips, there are some shitty comments there. We leave them. We don't delete them, or we don't paint this image that only, we're holier than thou and only people love us. So there are 1 or 2 really horrible messages there, comments. We leave them because, we have a saying, which is not everybody loves chocolate. right? And it's something we really believe in. I mean, it's true. Not everybody does love chocolate. Do you like chocolate?
I love chocolate.
Okay, you love chocolate. I love chocolate. But I know plenty of people who don't like chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah, and even those who do, they only like milk or they only like plain. So not everybody likes chocolate, and you have to accept that.
Right.
So there's no reason why everybody should like what we do, but usually people who come to our show end up liking it if they didn't know what they were in for.
Right.
And those one or two that didn't, we don't hear about, unless they the ones that go then later home and write, it was the worst thing I ever saw in my life. So no, but but not to be defensive, but I find that those comments actually say a lot about them.
Uh-huh.
Because there's some comments like that it's disrespectful, that it's tasteless, that I really do not believe that we are disrespectful.
Right.
I mean, I seriously, this is the last thing that we are. I can understand how people might see it that way, but we're not. We trained at the Yehudi Menuhin school, which is like an elite Harry Potter school for mental musicians. And we're very passionate about music, and I think that orchestras, these institutions like New York Philharmonic or Chicago Symphony or London Philharmonic, they wouldn't play with us if they didn't think we were serious musicians.
Right.
They wouldn't. If we were just clowns, they'd be like, oh yeah, those guys are fine, let's watch them on YouTube. But they'd never lend us the keys to their Ferrari. I mean, come on. So, and people like Joshua Bell and Manuel Axe, Billy Joel performing with us, I mean, they understand that we're serious musicians. So, and always for us, everything that we do, number one is the music. And then number 2, 3 is the humor and the theatricality. And if people laugh, great. If they don't, well, toppy, But it's not our aim to make people laugh or to do something that's, completely out of let's just do something weird just for the sake of being weird.
Right.
I mean, that's really not what we do.
Right.
So it's not disrespectful. But if you grew up in a very Puritan sort of rigid upbringing, and that's kind of what then anything that goes outside of the box, of course, is going to be like, whoa, those radicals, those punks.
I saw a comment just recently on your chandeliers piece.
Yes. Okay.
Which is a beautiful piece, but somebody said, a serious piece of music, from Hyung-ki Joo. And I was like, everything is a serious piece of music. I mean, even the Music Police sketch.
Right.
You're playing serious music.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
Really, really difficult, complex music.
You see, again, that comes down to nothing against that person in particular, but that comes down to our general human inability or need for everything to be in boxes, right? To put things in categories, and that's why people struggle with people like Frank Zappa or Nina Simone, or where are they? What genre? I mean, who cares?
Right.
Do you like it? Do you not? Are you moved by them? Are you not?
That's right.
And some people are just big. They're more that. If you look at people like Glenn Gould or Leonard Bernstein or Freddie Mercury, I mean Jacques Brel. These are guys that are not just singers or just composers. I mean, they're just bigger. Mm-hmm. They're just more varied, and you can't just put them in one slot. Right. Like, oh, Bernstein wrote the musical. Oh, he wrote a serious symphony. Oh, he was. Who cares? Right. I mean, why can't someone have many different facets? It's like Woody Allen. Whenever he tried to do something that was a bit more serious, he was just torn apart. But why? What? It's like, oh no, you only made you're that comedy guy, you're that funny guy with the glasses that goes, so you can't do serious stuff. Right. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, Roald Dahl Do you know Roald Dahl?
Oh, I've read almost everything.
Right. Have you read the adult stuff as well?
Some of it.
Okay, so you mean when you say you've read everything, you mean the children's
all
stuff?
the children's stuff when I was a kid.
Okay.
And then when I grew up, I was like, oh, now I can find those adult books.
Yeah.
But he wrote great stories.
Yes, and
For grown-ups.
the adult stuff
Yeah.
is like
Very serious.
whoa, it's out. It's it's screwed
the
up.
kid, or what's the one about childhood? And it's just a brutal story about.
Oh, isn't that his autobiography?
Yeah.
Kind of. I haven't read that.
It's brutal,
Right.
but it's wonderful.
A lot of his tales, The Unexpected, or
Uh-huh.
My Uncle Oswald.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's weird stuff. It is.
Shel Silverstein too. You ever read his stuff?
No, I don't know that.
A Light in the Attic. He does a lot
Oh,
of
yeah, okay.
these children's poems,
Right.
but then he has other stuff that's
Right.
like about smoking weed.
Right.
But it's fantastic
Right.
and not for kids. But even I'm like, whoa, who is this guy? You know, where did he come
Right.
from? But he's a human being with interests.
Right.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Well, look at Mozart.
Right.
He wrote requiems,
Mhm.
and he also wrote magic flutes, and he also wrote songs about licking someone's ass.
Which you have a video of.
Oh wow! You've really seen my stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Wow, my
yes.
goodness. Yes, that is genuine Mozart.
Performing the music.
Performing the music. That's right. Just to be clear, he saw the video of me performing the music, not actually performing.
That's another channel.
Yes, right.
The adult channel.
That's the Roald Dahl adult channel. Yeah.
So can you tell us about your creative process and some of your inspirations that you haven't mentioned already? I saw you have a Prokofiev piece, Shostakovich. You've done
Right.
a lot of out of the box stuff,
Yes.
and I know you compose
Yes.
and you educate. So can you talk about your influences and your creative process?
Wow, influences. I mean, we're going to be here all night.
Hey,
Uh,
I've got probably 4 hours of storage.
Well, from the classical world,
It doesn't matter. Just
yeah,
your influences.
my influences. Well, definitely the greats like Beethoven. Always come back to Beethoven. Debussy, Ravel, Mozart, Rossini. Then some of the early guys like Gesualdo. Then from performers, already mentioned Glenn Gould, Bernstein. Then figures like, of course, Yehudi Menuhin, people like Stefan Grappelli, Jacques Brel. I'm a big fan of Jacques Brel. Very interesting thing about Jacques Brel is that I fell in love with a French girl when I was 15 years old, as one does, right? So I don't think she knows about. No, she didn't know about. She knew
As
about.
every
No,
Korean
yeah.
British
Yeah,
child.
right, yeah. And one day she sent me as a gift a tape of Jacques Brel's 20 greatest hits. I never heard of him. I didn't know who he was. I listened to this tape. I loved it. And I listened to that tape for many, many years. And, back then there was no YouTube. There was no,
Right.
easy access, no Spotify. So I was pretty much stuck with that tape. And then years later, I started to listen to other stuff. But I would say there was a gap of about 13 years until I actually saw him. He's dead for long, but actually saw video footage of him.
Right.
I never even thought to think, oh, what does he look like? What is he like on stage? What I just loved him, And then one day I was watching TV and there was a documentary about him. I was just mesmerized by this guy.
Yeah.
Because there was an animal. It was like a guy who just this guy was not he was like an actor, animal, something beyond a real genuine performer. And even if you did, I happen to understand French, but even if you don't understand French, there's no way that you can't be compelled by this guy, because you see him and he's just like, he's so in it. Certainly performers like that. There's a lot of jazz musicians that have influenced me, or at least turned me on. People like Errol Garner, Herbie Hancock, Keith Jarrett. I recently heard a guy called Brad Mehldau.
Oh, I saw him live with John Scofield and Mark Juliana. Unbelievable. He's a genius.
I mean, of course, I've known about him for many years,
right.
And I've heard him here and there,
Yeah.
but actually going live to listen to him,
Yeah.
it was just a few months ago.
At the Blue Note?
No, it was in Vienna,
Oh,
at the Concerthaus.
Okay.
And the main program was his kind of arrangements, improvisations, compositions based on Bach.
Right.
That was like the main course of the program. Very good, very interesting, no question. In fact, I was thinking that every single pianist who studies in Vienna should have been there because it was a masterclass in piano playing, pedaling, articulation, phrasing, sound quality, production, it just everything. Even his Bach was wonderful, although he's not a classical player. I was like, where is every single student here? They should be just like, lapping this up. And then he played 2 encores, which were like, he went back into his thing.
Right.
He did jazz standards.
Yeah.
He did, what did he do now? Well, it doesn't matter. He played 2 jazz standards, and I shit you not, I was just like a little kid. I was in between that emotional experience of wanting to cry and wanting to laugh, like not really knowing how to react, because it was like, what? It just amazing,
It's stunning,
just amazing. And there's been very few experiences like that in my life. So definitely Brad Mehldau is now absolutely on my giants list.
Yeah.
There's a guitarist. Actually, you're a guitarist. I don't know if you heard this guy. His name is Wolfgang Mutzspiel.
No.
Jazz guitarist. Fantastic. Check him out. Wolfgang Mutzspiel, Austrian dude. Plays also just recorded a CD with Brad Mehldau. And he is definitely a big inspiration. We hung out a lot in New York when I was studying there, and he opened actually my world to a lot of jazz music that I didn't know about before. Certainly, I'm a fan of Pink Floyd. Also like Pink.
Oh yeah. She's very
Pink,
creative.
She's very creative. Yeah, and she's also like one of those people that's like, she's there. She's in the moment. You believe, even if you don't like what she does. See, I think that some musicians, it does, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter whether I like them or not. Like Glenn Gould is one of my favorite artists, but I don't like everything he does.
Right.
When he plays, I just shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people like Pink or Jacques Brel, they're those type of people that not everything they do I like, but you stop to pay attention.
Yeah.
Brad, same thing. Just listen, because these people they're not screwing around. They basically, this is what they do. They're dedicating their whole lives and to this, and they have they're hooking into something.
I feel like they're superhuman.
Right.
Like I see musicians like that, and it's almost like they forget who they are. They just exist for this music. And it's such, it's their identity. That song, that performance, it's like who they are.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right there and then.
You can't deny it.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it, but you can't ignore it,
I love a lot of things, like we spoke earlier off camera about King Crimson.
Yeah.
I love those guys. Well, obviously I'm a huge fan of the Beatles. Probably not a day goes by without some Beatles earworm in my head. I love a lot of like Simon and Garfunkel. Then, I mean, I'm open to all kinds of music. I mean, I love Public Enemy.
Oh yeah.
Beastie Boys, I think are fantastic. It's not the music that I listen to every day,
Right.
but it's also when I listen to them, it's also a little bit like, you know what? Shut up, pay attention. This is not just some dudes in a garage. Just they're onto something.
Yeah.
And it's fantastically crafted music. They have fun.
Right.
There's a sense of fun in there. There's a sense of creativity. They're not just out there to make a hit. Mm-hmm. They're there to make music. They're there to make weird music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of Beastie Boys. A lot of Radiohead.
Have you heard Brad Mehldau's Radiohead?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, of course. Ooh, there's something I discovered quite recently. Postmodern Jukebox.
Oh yeah.
I love those guys.
Very fun.
Wow. And a lot of those singers on there are fantastic. Can't wait to go. Then there are also people who are not musicians, but have been incredible influences on me. Certainly people like Charlie Chaplin.
Oh yeah.
Marx Brothers, although they are kind of musicians as well.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them.
Uh-huh.
In today's world, there's I'm also intrigued by, I'm intrigued by anybody, actually, that is passionate about what they do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a nameless street performer.
Right.
That I also just shut up and listen. I stop when I put and I just listen. Because pay attention to this guy or this girl, because, and they're playing on the street. Clearly, they're not doing it for fun. I mean, they're doing this because, of course, to make a little bit of money to get their way. But this is, what they do. And some of them are just amazing. There's no reason why some of those people on the street shouldn't have huge record deals. Mm-hmm. I once saw a guy, and you see these guys everywhere, but then you find one that's like the golden child. Mm-hmm. It was one of these doing this wine glass thing, and it's you see that usually like, yeah, it's just a party trick, and it's like whatever.
I thought I was standing in front of wine glasses.
yeah, whatever. But this one guy I saw. I even made a video clip of him. I'm so stupid. I should have asked for his name, got his contact, his number. Because we would have invited him to a show or something. Yeah. Something. This guy's he was a genius. Right. Absolute genius.
So you like everything.
I do. For example, also dance. Like there's a dancer called Tamara Rojo. Mm-hmm. She's now the artistic director of the English National Ballet. I actually flew to London to go watch her perform twice, and I'm not a major ballet freak, but for her, yes. Mm-hmm. There's also a guy called James Thierry, who happens to be the grandson of Chaplin, and he does these amazing theatrical shows. His sister too, Aurélia, actually both of them, James and Aurélia Thierry, they created this type of, again, this genre that doesn't really exist. It's a type of circus / theater / performance art / contortion / magic, fun, comedy, whatever.
Do you know Barbara Hannigan?
Oh my God! I wrote a huge. My first blog, one of my first blogs that I wrote was basically a love letter to Barbara Hannigan.
She's incredible.
She's absolutely incredible.
And
she's
talk about serious music. She's doing the Ligeti stuff.
Incredible.
In crazy outfits. People are laughing, but it's that stunned. I don't know what to make of this, whether to laugh or cry, because I'm so shocked.
But Ligeti would be very happy with that response, because Ligeti is considered as one of the greatest composers of the last half of the 20th century, and he's also considered one of the most serious composers. Mm-hmm. However, his music is full of fun and humor. He wrote a piece for 100 metronomes.
Right.
Come on, the guy is full of fun. And, he has pieces where, the percussionists have to drop plates and stuff. He uses a lot of the type of techniques that those avant-garde guys were doing. But because he's a good musician and he has that sense of humor and creativity, it's compelling, right? Yeah. So, and then you get someone like Barbara Hannigan, who, again, is like a golden child.
Yeah.
And she puts her approach onto this music. Wow, it's explosive.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So we never got to your creative process.
Oh my God, yes.
How do you?
Well, I told you this is going to take forever. But you know, it's very rare. I tell you, this is a gift. I mean, I know you. It's a gift to be able to just talk about people that one likes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and to share that with someone who understands is very rare. I tell you something, and this is going to sound weird, but shut up. But I tell you something. I know I'm going off subject now, but
no, go for it. This is your interview.
Something I realized recently in my world, which I live in, which is mostly classical. I mean, of course, I know a lot of musicians outside of the classical world, but I noticed something a little disheartening, to be honest. It dawned on me just a few weeks ago that a lot of musicians, my colleagues, people in my world, they rarely talk about music.
Yeah.
And it just hit me, like, wait a second. We're calling ourselves musicians. This is what we do. We work our asses off. Our parents, usually in most cases, spent like tons of shitloads of money so we could have expensive lessons and go to music schools. And this is supposedly what we're passionate about. Yet, when we sit down, we don't talk about music.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about business, right?
There you put the... How did you know this?
I'm in an industry too. You know, it's what people do. They talk about the industry, not
They
the
talk about the business of music, which is the last thing that I want to talk about. It's the most... It's business. It's the least interesting part of music. It's the business. That's why it's got that horrible word, the business. And if we're lucky enough to be in the business, okay, we have to deal with it. Yeah. But I want to talk about music. I want to talk about C major chord. I want to talk about King Crimson. I want to talk about the lyrics here. I want to talk about Mendelssohn.
Right.
You know, this is what I want to talk about. And I realized that very few musicians want to. And in fact, there are even some musicians that will deliberately sabotage, like stop you right there. Like when they see that you're they said, no, I don't want to talk about music. Let's not talk about music. Okay. Then I would kind of maybe forgive them if the conversation steered towards something at least as interesting. Mm-hmm. But it either goes to a very, very low level, which, fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's okay. Don't always have, that's cool. But it's like, let's not talk about music. Let's just talk about very low stuff, or let's talk about the business of music. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
And so I don't really understand. It just dawned on me that there are very few people. So meeting you and being able to talk about music is like a rare treat. And I can tell you that unfortunately, as you realize, very, very few people that I've come across want to talk about music. Right. And I find that sad, because then what are we doing it for? Right? Anyway, back to your question. What is my creative process? By the way, you can cut this how you want.
No, I'm just making sure everything's still rolling.
You can cut out all of it.
This is the best stuff.
Creative process. Well, of course, I'm very, very lucky that a lot of my creative process is done with my friend and partner, Aleksey Igudesman, who today is in the form of fruit. It's actually kind of looks like him. I mean, we did a pretty good... Look, if Giacometti / Basquiat did a sort of live fruit sculpture of Aleksey Igudesman, this would be it.
Yeah.
2 apples and a bunch of bananas. This represents his sort of chi, and this represents his mental state. I know he'd prefer it the other way around, but I hate to say it, it's not. It's more like this. So yeah. So anyway, so I'm very fortunate that a lot of my creative process is shared with this guy, and actually even when we're doing our own thing, a lot of the times, we'll show it to the other person. So even if I'm writing a piece which is whatever, serious piece or funny piece, whatever, but it's like my own thing, it's outside of the I&J umbrella, he will very often make some, wonderful contributions and remarks, and we do that for each other. Mm-hmm. So, when we are working together, we call our relationship a ping pong relationship, because I ping stuff to him and he smells, so he pongs. That's kind of what it is. No, it's ping pong, because one person says, hey, how about this? Boom. And the other one says, okay, but what if we boom? And it just goes back and forth. And there's a nice rally going on. And
it always makes it better.
Always. And yes, we do disagree. And yes, we do argue. And yes, we do fight. We fight less and less because we're trying to be more about life and more holistic and spiritual and more about love and forgiveness. But it doesn't always work.
Man, Aleksey was doing really well until...
Yeah. Well, look, actually, to be fair, he bullied me. This is true. When we first
when you were
met,
younger.
Yeah, he bullied. In fact, he actually punched me in the nether regions. This is absolutely true. It's a miracle that I can be reproductive down there, because I really thought that's my, I'm cut off. There'll be no Jew dynasty after that.
I wouldn't have thought he was strong enough to make a difference.
Oh, he's strong. He's strong. He is strong. He's much strong. He always has been strong in me, and he still is.
Like an ox.
So, yeah. So, sorry about that. Yes. Yes. There's no frustration there at all. No issues that need to be resolved. No. No, of course we do have our differences, and we're two very strong personalities, but we believe and we work towards the fact that to try and come to a consensus. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the fact that you have this friction leads to something better, actually. And through arguing and through contesting, and then actually you kind of go, wait a minute, how about this? And so I'm very lucky mm-hmm. that I have that. Mm-hmm. I think that some people who are just working as solo artists maybe don't have that resource. I know that a lot of the Monty Pythons, their creative process was they had little writing teams.
Right.
They all, I think Eric Idle did his own thing. Terry Gilliam, of course, was animations, and Cleese was with Chapman, and Terry Jones with Michael Palin. But then, when they got together, they would then give the stuff to the other person, and the other person would finish it, and they'd say, oh, I know how to finish that, or give that to me. Right. So then it became a collaborative process. I'd actually love to know how, a lot of these rock groups that stay together, like U2 or Radiohead or Queen, if you look at their song credits, it's all shared.
Right.
It's actually a very smart thing to do, also, just for the general harmony of the group. Because a lot of rock groups split out basically because some people started seeing that other houses were bigger than theirs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is that aspect, but I am much more someone that likes to take time. And I think it's partly because I'm slow, but it's also because I believe in the magic of editing. I believe in the power of time and editing. Somehow, have you ever had this? I'm sure you've had this happen to you, and I'm sure whoever's watching, has had this happen, that you've written something like an essay or a homework or whatever, or something creative, a song, doesn't matter, a birthday card, whatever, and then coffee spills on it, or you've lost it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay.
You try recreating.
Yeah, and then you're like, ah! But I think 9 times out of 10, or at least 99 times out of 100, when you try to recreate it or do it again, it's usually better. So what does that mean? It means that subconsciously, with the passing of time, your subconscious has been working on. You put it down. Boom. Enter. Save. But while the computer stored it, or whatever, your handwriting has stored it, your creative subconscious is still continuing to work on it. So actually sometimes it's a blessing in disguise, while bloody annoying, that you've lost the first draft. And so let's say sometimes I do that consciously. It's not that consciously I give it to a dog to chew up, but consciously I kind of will let time sit on it and then think about it, and then come back to it. And then somehow there's a natural editing that's just been done. I just say, okay, let's just get rid of this. Let's just get rid of that. I don't have, I'm not one of those child geniuses that just can, I don't have perfect pitch. I can't listen, write down something on one hearing. There are people like that. In fact, when I went to the Menuhin school, I was 10 years old, and I really thought I didn't belong there. I thought I'd be kicked out. Besides being kicked in the balls by people like Aleksey, I actually thought I'd be kicked out also. Because I arrived there, I'd only been playing the piano for about 2 years. And I was certainly on the lowest of the food chain. I mean, there were people younger than me that were already writing symphonies, that were playing Rachmaninoff. Okay. And my audition piece was Bach First Prelude, da 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 dee da 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 da. Yeah, that was my audition piece. And somehow they accepted me. But then I got there and I thought, oh, they made a mistake. And fortunately, year after year, I was still there, and I was like, oh, I'm still here. And the thing that kept me going was that I believed that I loved music more than anybody else. Of course, it's a very subjective thing,
right.
But that's what I felt. Like looking around everybody, I realized, oh, they're much more talented than me. They're much more naturally gifted. They've been given God gifts, and they're, right. They're more trained. But the thing that I have over them is I love music more. I'm sure of it, because I just love music so much. And I felt that this love of music was lacking in a lot of them.
Right.
So I felt like, okay, if you just give me a chance, just keep giving me a chance, I'll get there. And then after a while, I guess I did. But so there's a part of me that, insecurities, lie strong, things that you feel as a child. So even today, there's a part of me that feels like I'm not a qualified musician. Because things don't come easy to me. Because everything I do has to be worked on.
Is Aleksey the kind of guy you're talking about?
I would say that Aleksey is a natural talent. Absolutely. In fact, it's a miracle he's such a good musician, because he's had such shitty teachers, in my opinion. And he left Menuhin school when he was 16, and in a way had arrested development. So it's a miracle for me that actually he's such a great musician, because, and if he was here, he would probably argue that, but that's not true, that he learned his things in other ways, and probably has a right to say that. But I always felt, from the moment I met him, even though he was kicking me in the balls, it still made me realize when he was playing that this guy's absolutely a natural talent and something exceptional. The way he played was unlike anything else, and the sound which he has is unlike anybody else's sound. It's a unique approach and just a unique inflection of expression, and that, I mean, I seriously, I mean, he's kind of not here, kind of is, but not saying that just because I'm on camera, but I really feel like I'm one of the luckiest people to play with one of my favorite violinists. I mean, I'm just so lucky to play with a guy like that.
Right. So you look at yourself, and do you ever compare yourself to his capabilities, or it's just more of a thank God he's
No,
there
I've
to
never
fill in my gaps?
I don't really compare I've never been envious of anybody. I've never been competitive with anybody. I've had relationships with pianists. A lot of people go, "Oh my God, how can you go out with a pianist?" I don't have any, I have wonderful friends who are pianists.
Right.
So I've never felt anything of that kind of competitiveness or rivalry. And the older I get, I have enormous respect for anyone who plays the piano. It's actually, from one side, it's a very simple thing to do, right? Every 5-year-old kid can just go da 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 da. And yes, it's true. There is a certain simplicity to playing the piano. But then when you get to a certain level, when you get to the last level of the video game, that's not simple stuff. And if you talk about these funky pianists, these jazz pianists, these people who improvise and they have to, any other instrument like electric guitar, saxophone, violin, I'm sorry, but with all due respect, they just have to play one line. It's just one line. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can
scale, it's the same
one scale, one line. So yeah, you could do yeah, sure, whatever, go nuts, man. But when you're playing a keyboard, most of the time you have to play the rhythm, the harmony, and that's usually with the left hand, maybe a bit of right, and then be totally free and inventive with the right, and have at least 3 things going on at the same time, and be polyrhythmic and polyharmonic. I'm sorry, but big respect has to be done for those guys. Not taking anything away from the instrumentalists who improvise, but when you look at someone like these guys like Herbie Hancock or Chick Corea, I mean, Brad, what they're doing is on another level. So yeah, I guess I feel that I'm still a student.
Like a beginner's mind, always learning.
Yeah, and I know that sounds cliche and zen and all that bullshit, but it's true. I really do feel, a few years ago, a student, well, she's not really a student of mine, but she's someone that used to come and play for me quite regularly. Mm-hmm. And then there was a little hiatus, and then she called me again and she said, I'd like to come again and play for you. And I was not trying to be modest or funny or trying to blow her off. I said to her, you know what, I actually don't think that I would be good to teach you. She said, why? I said, well, because I'm doubting everything that I've ever done before. And I really don't even know what the hell I'm doing myself. And I'm reinvestigating everything, that this would be just terrible for me. And all those lessons we had, all that jargon trash I told you before, it's like, throw it away, because that's what I'm doing. And so I really don't think I would be a suitable teacher for you. She said, that's exactly why I want to come to you.
Did you teach her?
I did, yes, yeah. Well, after such a cute comment like that, No, but it's genuinely how I felt. I felt like I don't know myself. Right. I don't have the answers for myself. How can I give an answer to someone, someone who's looking up to me, expecting me the answer? Mm-hmm. I say, I don't know. I really thought it'd be wasting their time.
Right.
So yeah, and it's not a complex thing. It's just it's not insecurity. It's just I just feel that. Yes, I know that I have an access to music. Yes, I know that I have a special approach to music. I know that I see music differently. I know that I feel music very passionately. I know those things. I'm not going to be modest about those things. And I know that I can put on a good performance. But because I know for myself how much work I need to get to just even do that. And that I know that some people can just like go, you know, they just pick up the instrument. They have, you know, they haven't played for a year and they're like drunk or whatever, and it's just, and the magic happens.
Right.
You know, or they just, you know, they just sit down, they write something or improvise something, and they have, you know, piece done. Aleksey's a bit like that. He's a very, you know, he's a much faster writer than me because he doesn't really think. I mean, he doesn't think anyway, right? I think that's
he's a fruit.
Yeah, he's a fruitcake. Yeah, no, but I think that's that's also that's a blessing in disguise. I think that's his strength and his weakness, that he doesn't give much thought to thought.
Right.
And he's more impulsive, and he's more like just letting it in and just doing it, and kind of hit and miss. Like there's not that quality control. Like it's good enough, boom, and he has that Midas touch. He'll write pieces that, and they're pieces that I listen to, and I love him, of course. You know, he's one of my best friends, and I admire him hugely, but sometimes I'm listening to it and I go, oh, really? Yeah, again, the same trick. But then I go away and I'm humming it. Mm-hmm. And it's in my head. Well, that's a Midas touch. So whatever I can objectively analyze it as much as I want and be scrutinous and critical. But at the end of the day, I've walked away. Hours later, I'm humming it. It's in my mind. So in that sense, it must be a good piece of music. It must be an infectious piece of music. Right? Mm-hmm. So he has that. And I'm a lot more, like I said, I like to tweak things, and I like to sit and, it's not so easy for me to say, yeah, that's it, done, next. It's very hard for me to do that. Mm-hmm.
The drummer Bill Bruford talks about this. He says some people are producers, some people are musicians.
Okay.
Some people can go into a studio and they lay down an album in 2 hours.
Boom. Yeah.
Some people, like Peter Gabriel, it takes 8 or 10 years to put out an album.
Right.
It's not that it's bad. It's great.
Yes.
But one guy can put out 100 albums in the space of the one album.
Yes.
You know?
Well, I do sometimes write songs. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't consider myself a natural born songwriter. Mm-hmm. It's not, I'm not, your Ira George Gershwin, your Irving Berlin. But I love the form of the art of song, and I've written a few songs. But it's tough, really tough. Mm-hmm. And I must say I was a little bit heartened. I know what you're saying, there's some people that write, but a friend of mine is Billy Joel.
Yes.
So I spoke to him once about this, and I said, man, it's so hard to write a song, and I just feel like giving up. And, I'd even show him, and I said, yeah, I don't know, should I do this? And he'd be like, what are you talking about, man? You know how it's like giving birth.
Right.
I mean, he's one of those people that would just take forever to and really struggle with lyrics and music and really work on stuff. So I was like, well, okay, if he, he's considered one of the greatest songwriters, right? So if he can struggle, then maybe I can struggle too.
Yeah. Back to being human.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I guess maybe that's why I identify more with Beethoven than with Mozart. I mean, I love Mozart, of course. Mm-hmm. Mozart is. But the thing with Mozart is that he just literally defecated a piece. Maybe that's why a lot of his pieces are scatological. He was always fascinated by.
Maybe that's why there's so much Mozart chocolate.
That's right, Mozart chocolate balls.
That's right.
Yes, but Mozart, he really, he just thought it and it was done. A whole opera, boom.
Yeah.
And Beethoven, with Mozart, there's hardly any sketch.
Right.
It's like Picasso drawing a perfect circle.
Right.
That's basically Mozart. That's the equivalent. Picasso didn't have many sketches where he's like trying to draw a circle. He just would put his pencil, go boom, perfect circle, perfect straight line. He had that God-given talent. Beethoven, on the other hand, sketches like this, he would cross out stuff, try stuff, put different keys, turn upside down, this, that, try, and there's like 32, 64 versions of just like 4 notes. I mean, probably before he came to da 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 da, he did da 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 dee, da 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 dee da 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 da. It's not that piece, but you actually see that sketches and sketches and sketches, and you feel the struggle.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's why I identify more with him.
Okay, so we've talked a lot.
Yes, I probably haven't answered one single question.
No, this is great. But you said you've got a CD with you.
Yes.
And I want to make sure we talk about it.
Oh, yes.
Because it's great.
It's called You Just Have to Laugh.
Yes. Where can someone procure said CD?
Here. If you have that Willy Wonka ability that you can just go into the camera and pick out the... it's... it's certainly available after our shows. But it's available in the one CD store that still exists in the world, somewhere in Mesa, Arizona, or something like that, right? Because CD stores are a relic.
That's right.
But mostly ordered through Amazon. Of course, you can also download it on iTunes.
Tell us about the album. You got a whole Malkovich thing going on.
Yes, there's some actor called Jan Malkovich on this, and he plays agent. Well, the thing is, what we wanted, because we're kind of old, we're traditional guys, right? I mean, we grew up in the world of radio shows and LPs and concept albums, which now don't really exist, right? So, and we've been a duo now officially for 14 years, and only last year did we make this CD.
Yeah.
So, and it's our first and only. And when deciding to do it, of course, we were in the drawing board. We're thinking, what should we do? And we're looking at current trends and what do people do? The concept album doesn't exist anymore. But then again, we've always loved, things like Sgt. Pepper's and all those great concept albums from the 60s and 70s. But CDs are shorter. So we wrestled with all these kind of conflicting things. And at the end of the day, we said, why are we doing what we do? I mean, is it to win a Grammy? We hope to win a Grammy. But is that what it is for? No, we're doing it because it's our creative desire.
Right.
And if we're lucky enough to be able to do it, let's just do what we love doing. Right. And if it's a success, great. If it's not, well, too bad. But at least we did something that we believe in. So we said, screw it. Screw whether people care about the concept album. Screw whether, we're just going to do our thing. So we said, let's make an album that has a line, that has a kind of shape and a dramaturgy. And then we had all these pieces in motion, and then we thought, okay, well, one thing, how do we string these? Because that's the thing. Our genre is many genres, right? We are classically trained, yet we love to mix rap, country and western, electronic, heavy metal, funk, like 30s, 40s songwriting styles. I mean, in this CD, there must be a ton of styles. Film music, cabaret, just a lot. Even like Latin, something for the Latin Grammys. Uruguay, Latin Grammy nomination. So great, we want to do a concept, but how can we make all these disparate things seem like it is one world? Because to us, this is our world.
Right.
Yeah, it's our world. I mean, if you're a black or Asian kid like I was growing up in Norwich, full of like white Anglo-Saxons, you don't think that's your world. But actually, if you look at it from another angle, it's like, whoa, you're the black sheep of the,
Right.
But if that's what So these pieces, they're like our kids. They belong here, but to somebody else that comes, they're like, why?
Right.
I mean, this is already 27 different iTunes categories. You can't. I mean, the machine's the computer's going to go nuts because it's going to be new age. All
You don't fit in the box.
We don't fit in the box.
That's right.
So one way we thought was, okay, well, let's create this character of an agent. And we called this guy Agent Sir. That's his name, Agent Sir. And he's a kind of persiflage, like mock-up of kind of all the types of agents that there are, that we've come across, or the type of traits, that basically in this business that about a lot of these people who are just out there have no idea about music. The people who are up there, sitting in their leather chairs. The people who make decisions about who will play next season.
Yeah. It's finance.
Have no idea about music.
Yeah.
Which I could forgive if they had a passion for it, but they don't.
Right.
They couldn't care less.
Obviously, with streaming services and all
They
those
don't.
things,
They don't
right?
give a. They don't care.
Right.
So they have no emotional connection to the job that they're supposed to be working on, right? And also those who have some kind of influence over the artist, a lot of them really don't give a shit about the artist.
Right.
They're just there to just rape and just profit from.
Mhm.
And if they get burnt out, well, it doesn't matter. They'll just get another one.
Find another.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this character's not as evil, but let's say that's the background of
Right.
of the agent. We kind of wanted to make this person. So who better to ask to play this than John Malkovich, right?
Who suffers from the same problems in his industry.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he's an out of the box guy.
Absolutely.
I mean, you'll see him in Transformers, but that's not his thing.
Right.
I mean, his thing is doing French theater and weird projects like this.
Being John Malkovich.
Being John Malkovich, that's him.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, where we're kindred spirits.
Uh-huh.
And he's always so gracious and supportive. And he said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do this." And so he's kind of the string, the thread, and he sends us off to record all these things. He sends us off to Istanbul because he just thinks it would be. Basically wants a Turkish lamp from. Can you get me? Or he's like, I'm flying into Paris. I've got some friends over for some wine and cheese. So maybe you could record some Chopin because that would go well with the wine and cheese. He doesn't care. He just whatever. Just do whatever. Just do something while I'm flying around the world, making money from you guys, or not from you guys, from something else, right? And he even sends us to outer space at some point. So he sends us to Uranus, and I have to say it was one of the most fun things getting him to say Uranus. Not that he had any trouble doing that, but it was just we were like little kids writing the script, and he's gonna say that. He's gonna say, "And I'm sending you to Uranus. Oh, I can't wait!" And then he's reading it. And it's kind of like a mixture of not greatest hits, but songs which tracks. There are things which people love, like From Mozart with Love, which is a mashup of Mozart and James Bond. There's our kind of version of the disco hit "I Will Survive," which is. But one thing I like to say about this, you see, a lot of people always said as well, "Oh, but does your stuff work on radio, or how could you make a CD because your stuff's so visual?" So we said, right, okay, let's prove it to you. So basically, not only did we conceive a kind of concept for it, but we also rethought every single number to see how it could translate into an audio format.
Right.
So I know you know quite a lot of our stuff, but you'll see that there's a lot of things are different.
Oh, I love it. I love the disc.
So that we could make that 3D space for the 2D listener.
And it's fresh because you watch the YouTube things.
Yes.
And that's one version of it.
Yes.
But then you get the CD and it's like, oh, I see how they twisted this.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a
great.
totally different. They're all totally different versions.
Right.
So yeah. So please, you just have to laugh. Igudesman and Joo. The Unmaking of featuring John Malkovich.
Thank you so much, man. What a treat. Seriously. I love it.
Some shameless plugging. Yeah.
Well, it's not shameless. That's why we're here.
That is why we're here. That is why it's
shameful.
shameful. It's full of no shame. Yes.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. All
Thank
right,
you.
cool.
I feel like I didn't answer one single question.
Then it's a good interview.
Oh, is it a good interview?